Welcome to the Aquariumax audio show with Russ and Kim. We provide information on all kinds of aquarium-related topics.
Today's a special show. We're having an interview with Alex Cardinale, host of Aquarium Talk the podcast on the American Variety Network. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, I'm glad to be here on Aquariumax, the podcast. I am really honored, and I want to thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us on our show. We had a lot of fun talking to you on your show, so I thought we'd reciprocate.
Yeah, I loved having you on my show, and I'm very happy to be a guest here on your show. I've been listening to your show since our interview, and you guys do a fantastic job. Oh,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we're really excited to have you on and kind of spread the word about your podcast. We'd like to kind of start out by talking more about, a little bit about you and your aquariums and so on, and then move on more to your podcast and your other aquarium-related projects that you've been working on. So can we ask you just briefly to introduce yourself and tell us how you became interested in the fish-keeping hobby?
Sure. My name is Alex Cardinale. I am 22 years old, and I'm currently living in Springfield, Massachusetts. And I first entered the tropical fish-keeping world when I was 13 years old. But I like to tell people that I was born in the fish hobby because way before I was born, my dad was keeping aquariums, and I think it was just natural for me to enter the hobby. I grew up watching my dad have some awesome freshwater tanks with Oscars and a monster fish and things like that. And then at 13, I started getting more and more interested. I started researching, and I got my first tank, which was a 55-gallon aquarium. And, of course, since I was a newbie at the time, I got some fish that were way too big for the 55. I think I got like an Oscar, Pacu, Red Devil, and a Pleco, if I remember correctly. But, of course, my dad, being an experienced fish keeper, knew that those fish were too big for my aquarium, so I had to bring almost everyone back except for the Oscar and Pleco. And at the time, I didn't think that this was going to be something that I really enjoyed, but as the years moved on, I gained more and more interest in the fish hobby. And I had to say I spent about 10 or 11 years in freshwater, and now currently I have finally ventured into the world of saltwater. I have a 29-gallon quarantine tank for my saltwater tank, and I have a 120-gallon fish-only with live rock tank that is currently empty right now because I had a big marine velvet outbreak, and it basically killed all of my fish except for a snowflake eel. So my tank has to go fallow for a few months, which means no fish in it so that the parasite can die. But I do have my 29-gallon quarantine tank up, and I have some fish coming in from Blue Zoo Aquatics tomorrow, and that's going to be pretty exciting. I've got a fox face coming in, a gold stripe maroon coming in, and some other nice fish, so I'm very excited about that. And definitely I will quarantine them. For all of our listeners out there, I think quarantine is important. I think the only reason I got velvet in my aquarium is because I didn't quarantine.
I agree. Quarantine can solve a lot of problems before they start.
Definitely true. I'm definitely going to recommend everyone out there to quarantine any fish, coral or invert you get, especially the fish. The fish tend to have more diseases.
Yeah, I think that's true. Sorry to hear that you had a velvet outbreak. It's awful when things like that happen. What did you have in there before the velvet outbreak? You said you still have a snowflake eel, but other than that, what did you have in the tank?
I had a very beautiful gold striped maroon. I had a one-spot fox face, a yellow tang, a blue hippo tang, a Bursa trigger, and a blue jaw trigger, I believe. I think that's everything. Oh, yeah, I also had a Melanoris wrasse. That's everything now. I'm getting a gold striped maroon and a fox face tomorrow to replace the ones that I lost.
Yeah, that is good to hear that you're still getting back into it, even though you get a setback, but you're not letting it get you down too much, and continue.
Yeah, if you do that, then you're going to lose interest in the hobby. Every once in a while, a fish will die, but you just have to keep your head up and start over.
Yeah, that's true. So, do you have a favorite of the saltwater fish that you have kept so far?
Yes, I would say I have two. The first favorite is the foxface rabbitfish, which is a very popular saltwater fish, believe it or not. It's a herbivore, meaning that it eats algae, but the difference between a foxface and a tang is that a foxface will also eat meaty foods and do just fine. So that's what I like about the foxface. And my second favorite fish in the saltwater hobby would be a gold-striped maroon clown. They look very similar to the normal maroons, with the exception that their bars are actually a deep gold color instead of a white color, and they usually go for about twice the amount of money compared to a white striped maroon, but that's okay because the color is beautiful. Now, if you're going to ask me my favorite invertebrate in saltwater, I would tell you a fire shrimp.
Oh, those are beautiful.
Yeah, they're very nice. Unfortunately, I can't have one right now because I'm getting a nitrogen trigger tomorrow, but definitely I will have one in my reef tank.
Oh, yeah. So you're going to set up a reef tank eventually?
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, I've had a reef tank in the past, a very small reef, a 10-gallon reef. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that a lot, but don't currently have saltwater right now. But I did have not a fire shrimp. What did I have? I had peppermint shrimp. Those were a lot of fun, too.
Yeah, those are pretty cool. They remind me of the miniature freshwater shrimps.
Right. They're kind of similar in some ways. I had a question for you about the gold striped maroon clown. Is that a morph, or is that a naturally occurring type, or just a captive bred morph? It's
actually a natural morph. I know it sounds kind of strange, but it's actually pretty natural. Although they are kind of hard to get naturally, so there are captive bred versions out there too. And generally they are a lot less cheaper and hardier than the natural ones. I know ORA has natural gold striped maroons, and they also have the commercial ones. They actually make different kinds of gold maroons too for captive bred. They have a gold dot maroon and a couple others, but they do have natural ones and captive bred ones.
Oh, okay. Is there a particular locality that they collect the gold striped ones in, the wild caught ones?
I think so. I think they're from a different part of the world where the normal ones are, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've noticed in the past few years a lot more different types of clownfish showing up. Like you'll see the black and white ones, or the ones with irregular stripes, or things like that. It's just they seem a lot more common in stores than they once were.
Yeah, that's very true. There's many different clownfish out there. There seems to be a lot of what I call designer clowns, which are captive bred clowns, like the black ice clown, the snowflake clown. Those are all done by ORA, and they're done to sort of make profit because they're trying to get kids to say that's a nice clownfish and buy them. I prefer the natural clowns. Not a big fan of the designer ones, but I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I just think it's a little bit too much money for a regular clownfish.
Mm-hmm. So it's just up to personal preference mostly, and cost.
Yeah. Just for example, I know the lightning maroon clown goes for about $300 to $500 for a 2-inch fish.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of money when you can get a regular maroon for about $30.
Right, yeah, definitely. So, Alex, I've got a question for you about your dream tank. If you could set up a tank and not have to worry about space or money, what would you do? What would your tank be like?
Oh, very, very tough question. Well, can I do one for freshwater and one for saltwater?
That would be perfect.
All right, so I'll start with freshwater because that's been my longest possession, but I love both of them. So in my freshwater tank, I would do freshwater stingrays, the Matoro stingrays. I'd also do some Altum angels, some discus, some large rummy-nosed tetras, and maybe a silver arowana. That would be a piece of the Amazon. Now, in my saltwater tank, I would definitely have many different species of foxface, maybe some one-spots, some magnificent, some bicolor. I would do schools of look-downs. They're a pretty cool saltwater fish. I definitely have some blue hippo tangs, some naso tangs, blonde naso tangs, unicorn tangs that have many different kinds of triggers. I'd probably have some Niger triggers, pink-tailed triggers. I'd have maybe one clown trigger, a couple of groupers, and to end it all, I'd have a small saltwater dragon eel. Watch that thing grow. Those Asian dragon eels in saltwater are very beautiful.
Now, what is a dragon eel? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
It's actually a type of moray eel usually found in China or India. It's a very, very expensive fish, and usually it is either sold to a public aquarium or you can get them online from places like Blue Zoo Aquatics or Live Aquaria, but they are kind of costly. And the reason for that is they are extremely rare, and when you do come into importers, they are collected from the wild. So they have to go through quarantine, and they have to get used to captive bred conditions. But if you are able to get your hands on one, it's a very beautiful fish, and I like the personality that eel brings. It's a little bit of a different species than, say, a snowflake eel or a chain link eel. It actually is a moray eel, but it has a different appearance, and it gets a little bit bigger, if I'm not mistaken. A very, very nice fish.
Okay, now that you mention that, that it's a type of moray eel, I think I'm getting kind of a picture. They have aren't some of them very colorful?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think that's the one I'm thinking of then. Cool. Yeah, I can't blame you. I find all moray eels fascinating. They seem to be, they have a lot of personality from what I have seen. As well as
they're really popular in the saltwater hobby. They actually have a good personality. Sometimes they can be very active, and they like to eat from your hands, although I wouldn't recommend it if you were a newbie because you might get bit. But I actually use tongs when I feed my snowflake eel. They have a very powerful jaw, and they don't have a really good sight. They just go by their scent, so they might mistake your hand for food and bite you. But I've been bitten by eels in freshwater. I can guarantee you a moray eel bite is going to be much different.
I can imagine, yeah. The tongs seem like a very good idea.
Yeah. But so far, my snowflake eel notices the metal tong somehow, so he just comes up right to the food and takes it.
So demonstrating some intelligence, too.
Yeah, very, very cool.
So you mentioned that the snowflake eel was the only fish that survived the velvet outbreak. Is that due to something in the constitution of snowflake eels, like moray eels are less susceptible to it, or is there some other factor involved, or is it just random?
I don't know off the top of my head. I probably would say it's random, but I've been researching eels quite a bit this past couple of weeks, and it says that they are extremely disease resistant because they don't have scales like other fish. They have a slime coat that protects them, and again, I'm just guessing that. It's not 100% scientifically proven, but if I were to guess, I would say it's because of the slime coat that they have on them, or it could just be a really extremely hardy fish.
Okay. Yeah, and it does make sense that if they have a kind of an extra slime coat, maybe a thicker one or a more frequently renewed one, that it would be harder for parasites to get a hold, at least certain parasites to get a hold on them. That makes sense.
I'm happy he's alive. I would have died if he died too.
Oh yeah, those snowflake eels are amazing. They're beautiful. I remember running into a few of them in the wild in Hawaii, and they were very beautiful fish.
Oh, nice. I'd love to move to Hawaii.
It's a fun place to live, but it can be difficult. It can be challenging, but I would say that I miss snorkeling all the time.
I know the culture is very different down here.
Yeah, and we met lots of great people there, but it is a different culture. It takes an adjustment, so yeah, it can be challenging for someone who's not from there to kind of learn the ropes. Well, I would like to ask you also, what do you find most rewarding about aquarium keeping?
I think the most rewarding part about aquarium keeping is actually seeing your fish thrive and seeing them grow to their potential. And you can do that by providing them a very good diet. I like to say that people should vary the food they give their fish. Like one day you can give them a meaty treat, the next day a vegetarian treat, and give them foods that they would normally eat in the wild or have access to in the wild. And I have found that the more water changes you do, like maybe 10 or 20% every other day, chances are your fish are going to grow a lot quicker. That worked on the freshwater end in the hobby for me. However, on the saltwater end, it would be pretty costly to do that many water changes. But I would say a good weekly water change would help your fish grow. And it's really rewarding to see your fish grow, their colors develop. That's the time when you can pull out your camera and start taking pictures and posting them on your Facebook or even on fish forums. I really recommend all of our fish keeping listeners to join a fish forum or some Facebook fish groups. You can chat with other fish keepers and gain a lot of knowledge. A lot of the knowledge I have is actually through other people and what I've learned from the forums and on the Facebook groups.
Right, that is a great resource. These days there are a lot of knowledgeable people out there who are willing to share.
Yes, that's 100% true, and I think that's why a lot of people are entering into the fish hobby. A lot of them find things from Facebook groups and things like that. If people follow the advice of experienced fish keepers, I think the hobby would be really smooth.
Yeah, and it's a lot more possible than it used to be, so that's a great thing.
I agree 100% with you on that.
There are some, sometimes you'll find people out there who say things without much experience, and they'll just kind of throw ideas out there. But in general, I think it's easy to, if you're doing your research and you get an idea of who's knowledgeable and not before you start up with your aquarium, then that's a good way to make sure that it works for you.
I agree with that statement. Very good.
So what do you find, you've told us what you find most rewarding, and I have to agree with you. I think those are some great things. What do you find most challenging about keeping aquariums?
Most challenging. I guess it's the water changes. I think I like doing water changes sometimes, but I think for me, why water changes are so challenging is actually having the time to do it. Sometimes I feel lazy or I'm too busy to do a water change. I think water changes are one of the toughest things to do. Also, I think one of the challenging things about keeping in an aquarium is sometimes, like I've experienced, fighting off diseases. You can try and try and try, and sometimes the disease wins, and fish keepers get frustrated. We get sad. I know sometimes people think if they lose their entire tank to a disease, they're just going to leave the hobby, but that's not a way to do it. Like for me, it took me a few weeks to get over it, but I would say if you ever have a disease outbreak, just start over and enjoy the hobby. Not everything in this world is perfect, and that certainly applies to the fish hobby. There's going to be challenges, but once you overcome the challenges, you will feel a lot better, and you can take like a disease outbreak and learn a lot from it. And I learned from this outbreak that I'm going to have to quarantine all of my new fish and only get a few fish at a time.
Right, yeah. I think that's a good way to take something that's challenging and turn it into knowledge. It's a great way to do it.
I agree, and hopefully what I said made sense.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, can you tell us a little bit more about Aquarium Talks, the podcast? Maybe how it got its start, how long it's been going, what kinds of things you talk about. I've started to listen to it, too, and I've enjoyed it so far. So, can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Awesome. The Aquarium Talk, the podcast, is a tropical fish-keeping podcast on American Variety Network, blogtalkradio.com/American Network. And I do freshwater shows and saltwater shows. And Aquarium Talk, the podcast, started, I want to say, back in August or September. And originally, I was going to bring back my older established podcast, which was called Aquatic Wetline. However, Aquatic Wetline was all freshwater, and I wanted to start over anew to incorporate a saltwater show and a freshwater show. So I figured I'll start over and retain the listeners I had from Aquatic Wetline. And most, if not all, of my listeners from Aquatic Wetline are now tuning into Aquarium Talk. So I have them, plus I have a lot of new listens. And I have been growing with my fish-keeping podcast, and I'm very excited about that. Now, the name Aquarium Talk was actually a very lazy name. I just figured since I talk about aquariums and aquarium keeping, I'll just call it Aquarium Talk because it's a talk show about aquariums and tropical fish. Usually I do about 1 or 2 fish shows a week if I can. If not, there's about 3 to 5 fish shows a month. I really enjoy talking fish, so I try to do as many as I can. And once in a great while, I have a guest on my show, like back in January, I believe. I had Aquariumax on my show, and you guys can listen to that on American Variety Network archives. And coming up this Sunday, I've got Blue Zoo Aquatics owner and founder Mark Martin on my show. Now, Blue Zoo Aquatics is actually a online saltwater retailer who sells to the United States public. They actually ship your fish. And we have a promotion going on. American Variety Network and Blue Zoo Aquatics is giving 15% off to everybody who orders through Blue Zoo Aquatics. So if you buy a couple of fish, you will save 15% off. So any of your listeners who are saltwater keepers can order from bluezooaquatics.com and save 15% off of their order by using the coupon code AVN coupon, all capital letters, and all together. There's no spaces in between AVN coupon.
AVN for American Variety Network?
Yes.
Cool. So how long does that offer last?
It lasts the whole month of March. I think it ends on March 31st, if there's a March 31st this year.
Oh, cool. So any of you listeners out there who are in the saltwater hobby, make sure you take advantage of that. Thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. I thought it would be a good little shameless plug.
Exactly. That's what it's about, right? We're doing some cross-promotion and letting everybody know about more resources in the aquarium hobby, so that's perfectly appropriate, I think.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me do that.
Also, there's you said you're working on a new saltwater group. Can you tell us more about that, too?
Oh, yes. A friend of mine, Jason, and his friend Keith and I decided to create a new Facebook saltwater group, and we figured that we would help aspiring people who wanted to have a saltwater aquarium. It was set up for beginners and really all saltwater members in general. The name of the group is National Saltwater and Reef Society on Facebook. Originally, it was supposed to be a group for New Englanders, people living in New England, but we branched out to national because we had members from all over the world on the group. And we do raffles, giveaways, and we chat fish. And we've got a lot of members who are actually posting pictures of their fish and asking questions and such. So any saltwater fish keeper is welcome to join and share your experience. Or if you're a freshwater keeper who wants to learn about saltwater and eventually join the saltwater hobby, you can check us out. That's National Saltwater and Reef Society on Facebook.
Cool. Yeah, so that's so anyone with a Facebook account could easily join, right?
Yes, anyone with a Facebook account can easily join that group.
Cool. So do you have, I know you have a YouTube channel. I found your YouTube channel. What are the other resources you have that are connected to your hobby and to your podcast?
Yes, I have a YouTube channel. I do fish videos. My YouTube channel is American Variety Network. I have a page on Facebook called Aquarium Talk, the podcast, where I post things about my podcast and fish keeping. And next week I'm going to start posting some fish profiles, saltwater and freshwater, Aquarium Talk, the podcast, on Facebook. I have a Twitter called Alice Cardinelli 1, the Vigilante, on Twitter. And I have another Twitter, American Variety Network. I think that's everything I have for fish related. I don't think I'm on any other sites that involves fish right now on the top of my head.
Okay. So one question I have, I know that the American Variety Network, you have a lot of things going on. What are some of the other things you do besides your fish keeping hobby?
Okay, good question. I have a cooking show. Well, actually, I have two cooking shows. I have a cooking show that does recipes and actual cooking. That is called Chef Cardinelli Cooking Show. I also have a new show coming on March 10th, which is called Cooking School with Chef Alice Cardinelli, and that is where I'm going to use what I learned from culinary school on the air. I am by no means a chef, but I am a culinarian who has went to culinary school, and I want to share what I learned at culinary school with all my listeners. I have no idea how this sort of a podcast is going to work out, but you never know until you try, so I can't wait to try that out. I also have a wrestling show called WWE Zone Radio. I have a talk show called In Your Face, where I talk about mostly anything. I have a news show. I have a movie review show called Flicker Ticker Movie Review. I have a whole wide variety of shows. There's a ton of different shows, but the most popular ones seems to be my cooking show, the fish show, the wrestling show, and a show I do on Saturday nights called Saturday Live with Alice Cardinelli. It's kind of my parody of Saturday Night Live, where I'll have a guest on my show. I'll do funny audio clips, funny phone calls, and I'll tell you guys some do you know trivia facts and things of that nature. That seems to be getting really popular, and it's live on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is my only live show. All of my other shows are recorded a couple days before, but I enjoy doing at least one live show, and it's Saturday Live with Alice Cardinelli, Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on American Variety Network, blogtalkradio.com/American Network.
So it sounds like American Variety Network is a very appropriate name. You've got all kinds of things going on.
I know. I like to think that it keeps myself busy, and it keeps me from going crazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'd encourage listeners to go check out the American Variety Network, and I know that everybody's interested in fish, so check that out, but also check out whatever else, all those other things that Alex has just mentioned to us.
I would really appreciate your listen, so head on over to blogtalkradio.com/American Network.
Yeah, so Alex, it's been great to have you on the show. It looks like we're almost out of time here, but I wanted to give you a chance to mention anything else. If there's something I haven't covered, if there's something you'd like to mention or ask or whatever, this would be a great time.
Okay, I think I should give a shout-out to a very well-deserved person. Now, this person is actually a fan of Aquariumax, the podcast, and also American Variety Network, and his name is Jeremy Stellhorn. If it wasn't for Jeremy, I would have never found you guys, and I would have never had you on my show. So I want to thank Jeremy for letting me find a great aquarium podcast like you guys and having the opportunity to be here on this show tonight. I think it is appropriate that I say thank you, Jeremy.
Definitely, and I'd like to thank Jeremy, too, for helping to get us together and connect us so that we could do this. I remember
thank you so much, Jeremy.
Talking to him on Facebook about it. So, yeah, another thanks, Jeremy, for doing that.
I agree.
All right, Alex. Well, it's been great to talk to you, and we'd like to thank you for joining us on the show today. Unfortunately, Kelly was not able to be here tonight, but she was here in spirit, and I'm sure she'll enjoy listening to the show. And we hope that everything goes well with your new fish acquisitions, and we hope to keep in contact with you and have you again as a guest on the show in the future.
I would love that. I'd love to be on here anytime you need me. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity to chat fish with you. I really enjoyed it.
So did I. And I wonder if you'd join me in our customary sign-off. If you can remember how Kelly and I always say, may the fish be with you, if you'd join me in doing that this time.
Sure. May the fish be with you.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the Aquariumax audio show. For additional episodes, please visit Aquariumax.com. To leave comments or questions that could be featured on an upcoming podcast, leave a message at 801-477-0629 or email us at info@aquariumax.com.